being a quorum present, I'm going to call the meeting of the May 21st Board of Sewer Commissioners meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gilberti.
Here. Present.
Commissioner White.
Present.
Commissioner Bronk.
Here.
Chairperson Jordan.
Here.
And Clerk Sweeney. All present?
Okay, for the first order of business, we normally would be approving the minutes of the previous meeting. However, there was a glitch in getting those minutes of last week's minutes to us in time to be approved. So if it's all right with the board, we're going to approve them next week. So that'll be, the minutes of the 14th will be approved next week. As far as the May 16th minutes go, we canceled that meeting for lack of a quorum, so there will be no minutes for that.
Oh.
So that'll be just put into the record
For
that
the May?
for the May 16th, which was the tour on Saturday.
Oh, that's right, too, yeah.
So we canceled
that.
that, so that, we're just gonna write that into the meeting minutes of this, so that they know that that's why. Is there anyone here for citizens' participation? Seeing no one present, we're gonna move on to sewer business. And this evening, we have a presentation on the demand response proposal by the Sea Power Company. So if you'd like to come up and state your name.
Good evening. My name is Chris Landers with Sea Power. And what I'd like to talk about is there's a program that is available through ISO New England. It's our grid operator that essentially all of us, residents and businesses and towns, pay a tariff. You don't need the microphone.
No, but that's a performance.
Okay, so there's a tariff that we all pay and pay into, and these funds are used to fund programs that help the grid maintain stability. One of these programs is the demand response program. And you know, our company focuses mainly on commercial and industrial and municipal customers. Many municipalities across, you know, Massachusetts and the Northeast. There's, 13 states that are deregulated that actually have these types of programs. I think you'll probably end up seeing more of these programs going forward that not only that the grid runs through aggregators like us, but then also the local utilities are being encouraged to add the same kind of thing. So I have a presentation. I'm not sure how familiar you are with demand response. I typically ask people that, how in depth should I get? Let me know if you want me to run over it. I can run through it relatively quickly, but feel free to jump in and ask questions at any time. We'll make it interactive. And hopefully by the end you'll see the benefit. There are revenues. So in essence, what you're going to be seeing is you have some generators in town. Wastewater treatment plants and water treatment plants tend to be, I guess, the first thing that any municipality gets in, because all of them have them, and all of them have them backed up by a generator. And in essence, what the grid does is say, hey, we'll pay you to be ready to turn those on and remove that power from the grid when we're in a time of stress. So introduction again, I think I probably did that a little bit already. Go through, there's a couple of the programs. We're gonna focus on the generation program, emergency generation program. There's also another program that we'll highlight that basically is you turn things off. So that's load shedding versus turning on generation. On the utility side of the meter, it accomplishes the same thing. A little bit of the technology and process, and then certainly why through Sea Power and who we are. So a little bit about Sea Power. Some of you may or may not be familiar with a company called Constellation Energy. Okay, they're part of Exelon, Fortune 50 company. That's who we were. We were the demand response division of Constellation up until November 1st. Spun out, merged with one of our biggest competitors, Converge, and we are now one big happy family as Sea Power, a company that is solely focused on demand response and the nimbleness that's needed for these kind of programs where the grid's constantly adjusting, and you hear things with solar and wind and how they're constantly trying to tweak to get the right mix So the grid can basically, cheaper power, cleaner power, maintain stability. So we are not just a new company, we're just a new name, you know, we're a newly formed company, but obviously all of the customer base and megawatts in the market are there. And customers like yourselves, there is a problem. The grid does have stability issues. It's, you know, I like this slide in that it's simple supply and demand. It just kind of it illustrates the problem that there are certain times where the grid has more people that are needing power. Typically, we'll call it, you know, in the summer months, it's third day of a heat wave, 90 degrees above in Boston and in Hartford, and then high humidity. Everyone's turning on air conditioners. The grid gets into these times of stress. It's got two options. It can turn on expensive, dirty peaking plants that run 10 hours a year, or in essence, it can call what's, you know, virtual generation, which is having people shut things off. Penny saved is a penny earned theory. So that's essentially what we focus on. And if we don't have that, the grid is able to shut down half of the New England power grid in 7 seconds in order to maintain stability and prevent not just blackouts and brownouts. That's not necessarily their concern. Their concern is damage to the overall grid and then extended blackouts and brownouts. So that's what these programs help work towards. As we look at power, so sort of an overall, you have the usage side, people using power and alternate fuels and gas. And what we're on the offset side. So different things of offset are as I discussed, solar, so the renewables, solar and wind. Cogeneration, which is using power and heat when applicable to actually save and get efficiencies out of that. Efficiency measures, changing lights, which it looks like you guys have already done in here. Using certain technology, building information system tools to actually run. So if you had technology on all the power around town and you could control it centrally, you could make sure that, okay, that building's not being used. We can shut things down remotely rather than counting on people to go over there and do that. And then what I'm talking about, which is demand response. Give just a quick kind of definition of what it is. I'll go to the analogy. We'll kind of explain what it is. The analogy is the grid pays people, you know, demand being an overbooked airplane, they pay people to get off. And companies and municipalities will say, you know, well, what's in it for me? Well, that's where the tax revenue is. It's some significant revenue as we'll look into. And then the story is changing and improving. Well, I say good news, bad news there. And like an insurance policy, so it's not every year that the grid gets to the point of stress where it needs to call on any of these assets. So you get paid for just, there's 2 tests a year, one in the summer, one in the winter, just so you can, you know, prove that your generator can pick up what we say it can or what you say it can. But if there's no event, you get paid 100% based on the results of that 1 hour test. So at minimum, and what we're probably looking at for the town is about 2 hours a year. If the past history of the last 5 years plus holds true, 2 hours a year to gain some of the revenues we're talking about. And again, I think we, you know, defined it. If anyone has any questions, I'll just pull up what the grid typically looks like. So this is the stack of how power is used in the New England ISO grid, and right there at the top, when it starts to peak, we've already, you know, hydro and nuclear and coal plants, that's our base load plants. Those are running all the time pretty much, and when they're maxed out, we'll go to some oil and gas plants. When those are maxed out, we'll go to these peaking plants that are dotted around Massachusetts you might not even know about. Or we can do this demand response, which, like I said, is like virtual energy. So, is that clear? Anyone have any questions up until that point? So, all right. So, what are we really talking about? This is just sort of a picture of what the typical load for 1 year for the you know, ISO, the New England grid, might look like, and it's a few of these anomalistic spikes is really what they're trying to target. If there was a whole rise in tide, they'd obviously need more power plants. These are just a few of the typical spikes. When it gets up to a certain point, they just try and peak shave and handle those particular spikes so we don't go into, like I said, brownouts and blackouts. So we talked about the energy offsets. A couple of things you can do. Lights are permanent, so that's helping the grid out by actually or moving load. If you guys were able to move certain loads to off-peak times where the grid isn't stressed, that would be helpful overall. Probably bring down your energy costs as a town. Or we can talk about some of the active things, which is like demand response. Again, it's just another visual representation of looking at the load and then all of a sudden turn on the generator and that dotted line cuts out those moments of the day where the grid needs help. This just kind of lays out a little bit of different verticals and how they typically will participate in a program like this. Obviously, the second one down is probably the most pertinent one here tonight, and it's municipalities and can shed 25 to 70% of the demand of their wastewater treatment plants. There may be other things that they have that are typical for a municipality. Again, there may be other things going on in further conversation. So beyond what Guy and I have talked about, something to think about if you know other commissions in town or other areas of the town where, hey, you know what, this may make sense. The high school has generators. Why aren't we talking there? High schools, if they're large enough, are good users. If there's enough load, they tend to be, emergency centers. So just something to think about. So getting down to brass tacks, this is the sort of the payout structure of what we're looking at. The top line is blue. And that's real-time demand response, DRF. That is the load shedding. And these are the payouts on an annual basis since obviously 2010. And I will say the couple of years before that, it used to be a little bit higher. So I think in the past, the town had done this before. And the payouts weren't exactly what they were probably hoping, probably because you started in a little bit before 2010 and the numbers have come down and kind of flattened out. Still not bad, but it basically says on a per megawatt basis, and I think we've estimated that you're at about a megawatt. We don't know that for sure yet, but that's, I think, where we're approximating. So the total amount on a payout is, you can see 35, then to 38 to 40,000. And so that's the total gross revenue that the grid pays out. C-Power takes a portion of that, the town takes a portion of that. I'll point to the spike and where we're going. Something to think about as a sewer commission, something to think about, and when you're talking to other people in town, what we are in New England, we're in what they developed back in 2007, started in 2010, a forward capacity market. So the grid basically is saying that, okay, we know what the capacity pricing is, maybe not the per kilowatt hour, it's the size of the hose we need to build in to make sure we cover everybody at any given moment. To do that, they run an auction. So for this summer, and we're trying to get you guys in for this summer. We've already missed the start of the summer, which is June, but we're working for July. But the megawatts we as a company are selling, in essence, for this summer, we purchased 3 years ago. So it's 3 years ahead. We actually know, so the February auction that just happened is actually for the 2018-2019 season. So I say, look at what it's significantly going up. And that's great news for demand response. And it's great news for the same megawatt, for the same generation you turn on today. We're talking about how to split about $40,000 and all of a sudden it's going to go up to 80 and then 114. I say that's good news. Bad news is because the capacity is built into your electric costs. Right. It's the same thing. And it's not a demand response capacity. It's the same capacity that generators that make, Plymouth and everybody else that make electricity, this is what they get paid for generating electricity. And we're just considered virtual generation. We're in the same bucket, if you will. So certainly something if perspective, and I know that, Guy had said, well, we didn't quite make what we thought we were from the old company. There could be a couple of reasons for that, and we've talked about it. And I think we can certainly fix some of that, and we have a level of transparency. Here it is. I'll tell you exactly what the total amount coming in. But that upswing, that's not going away. And part of the reason for that upswing and why beyond 2018, 2019, it's not going to just plummet right back down, it's the problem we have in New England. If you look at our total generation, our total usage, a lot of the plants are coal, oil-fired, and they were built in the 1950s. And so we've got upwards of 8,000 megawatts that are due to retire by 2020, and there's no replacement for them. And if they retire, we can't cover the yearly, the typical yearly peak that we hit as a New England grid. So there's engineers at these at these electrical meetings that are freaking out, saying, what are we going to do? Things limp along. Some power plants, they band-aid or they don't put in the mothballs. Braden Point went out, Yankee went out already, so we already know those are coming off. Salem is looking at sort of reinventing itself as a gas energy plant, natural gas being the preferred method nowadays. However, in New England, we have a problem getting natural gas here. So this isn't a problem that's going to go away. I think you'll see these prices, unfortunately, continue into the future. So having a look at that, you could say, hey, that's fantastic. I can see that the money's there. It makes a lot of sense, and it's going to make even more sense going into the future. What is kind of expected from us, as a municipality and expected of Guy and his team for the generators? So these are the total hours of events since 2010. And I'll say this, so the blue bars, which is the only thing you can see, is demand response. That is the turning off of power, of reducing power, load shed, if you will. The orange bar is how many times we've called an actual event for emergency generation. There aren't any orange bars.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what this illustrates for you is since August of 2006, which was the last system peak, the system actually hit over 28,000 megawatts that day, they haven't called emergency generation. It's, as I like to say, it's like the training wheels of our load response, demand response program. The hard part is coming up with the money for a generator. But for those who have generators, it almost makes no sense not to be in a program like this. You can get some great, return, some revenue. You're going to get a nice revenue stream. There hasn't been an actual event called. And if you look at the event, the worst year we've had, which was 2013-14, it was 10 hours, plus the 2 one-hour tests, 12 hours of commitment in a year. And that was the worst year in, a decade. So what will happen in the future, I can't say, and certainly make no promises, but if you look at the past pattern. I will also just sort of mention this. So emergency generation is the last line of defense for the grid. They've got certain operating procedures, and first they put out a nice little notice, hey, everybody please shut stuff off, and then they try and tweak other power plants to add more. They go to Canada and New York and see what kind of hydropower they can purchase. Chances are that if we're in a heat wave, so is Canada and New York. So that doesn't always work out. Operating procedure 4 is demand response. So as you can see, those get called for a couple of hours more in a year. And on the right side of that table basically says in 2010 that 3 hours was one event, the 7 hours was one winter, one summer event, the 3 hours was one winter event, and then the 10 hours was one summer, one winter. And it happened to be a bad winter event that went 7 hours that year. So if they did get to a catastrophic point where they said, okay, the last line of defense is put the emergency generators on, you can see the number of hours a year aren't actually prohibitive either. So, and the reason for that, for generators, emissions, EPA, they have more restrictions on, when they agreed to let them in the program, sort of when they're putting this all together, it's, okay, there was a lot of people fighting, saying, hey, look, I want restrictive hours because of pollution, noise, and emission pollution, and I want them to be the actual last line of defense. So it's the only time they can ever call the generators is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, non-holiday weekdays. So it's a nice cap to at least knowing you're not going to get called on a weekend or Memorial Day or Labor Day Mondays at all. And I think probably, and I don't know if we have another slide that sort of illustrates this, but typically you have to get out and exercise your generators, not just for keeping the batteries charged, but to make sure they're running. and you should run them under load. You know, it's great if you go start up a car, but unless you drive it around, you don't know if the gears are working, the tires are working, or in this case, the switch gear works on a generator. So typically, you're going to do that at least once or twice a year. Most people once or twice a quarter, if not a month. And for the 2 tests, we kind of know when they are going to be down to a month. There's only a half an hour heads up that the grid gives for any test or events. But we know like June, July, August, those are the summer months, called performance months. We know that's when the test's gonna be. And here we are now in May, we kinda knew in April. This summer, it's gonna be in July. So if you know that you're gonna do a summer test on your generator anyway, guess what? Most people will just say, all right, well, we'll just do it in July. We know we're gonna get called from the grid. We'll run it then. In addition to the monies you get in what's called the capacity program, at the moment that you're actually called for a test or an event, they pay you the real-time energy price as well. So if it's, $300 or $500, and that 2013, those real-time energy prices spiked up to $1,000. So they pay you $1,000 an hour to turn on your generator, and you're not using that much in fuel. So generally, the additional, what they call the additive energy payment, covers fuel costs. So it really is a nice mix in the program. There's not a lot of people I hear that the energy payment doesn't cover their fuel costs, and they get to test their generator under load. And I will say that there's some people, that are the managers of typical generators in the program that don't test under load, and they're thankful to have the program because this forces them and forces their management team to make them do it, because what good's having an actual crisis if you find out you haven't tested your switch gear in 30 years, that kind of thing. So a little bit of what we use, and all right, they're not popping up here. Let me go back. I'm not sure why they're not coming up. This would be a gorgeous picture of our interface. Any idea why this might not be? And I'll hop out and see if I can see it on my.
There you go.
Yeah, it's
Oh, that's my background. Let's see if I can. Image cannot be displayed. Is what it's saying. Okay.
Looks like the sewer plant.
In essence, what it is we have a software front end that, depending on how we would meter the generator, so we basically have to put on a meter. It's really a data logger that sends back the data to the grid to make sure that it's how they do settlement grade, so they can verify payment. If we're able to do that at the utility meter, it basically will give you a near real-time look at everything happening at the utility meter. So it would give Guy and his team and anybody else that had access, oh, here's what's going on right now, let's just see what kind of energy is going through that. The other option is to meter at the generator itself, and unfortunately that means our system's going to read zeros, until the generator turns on, reads the exact output. The reason I bring that up is not only it's cool technology, and unfortunately I can't show you the picture of it, but this program is, you get paid for what you perform. So if one time we do a test and it's 1,000 kilowatts, you get paid on 1,000 kilowatts. If the next time it's 920 kilowatts, you get paid on the 920 kilowatts. It just happens to be what the tax on the system is at that moment. Your generators can pick up the entire meter, the entire utility meter. It just, you have to be part of the problem to be part of the solution. So that's why there can be a little bit movement in payments. So if you guys are, and I know there's some talk of maybe increasing, the potentially with the the sewer, I don't know what the infrastructure is in the future. There's a chance, you might want to take a look and see that there's an ability to maybe even gain more money if there's more tax on the system. We know that there's we don't have any a building management system, so those that sort of the tie-in technology could auto-DR. It's not pertinent to this conversation. So why would you basically incorporate this kind of technology or this kind of program into what you do? Obviously, the number one thing is the source of revenue. With the use of this technology, if you guys were, trying to manage, wastewater treatment plant, water treatment plants don't necessarily get to manage their peaks. It is what it is, and you have to perform the function, and the function's more important than the real-time cost of the energy. That may not always be the case, but at least you can get to some data analytics. You can get a view into what's going on. More information is always better. I say the emergency readiness, people being ready to perform and flip the generators on, it helps keep staff honest, keeps everybody aware, hey, this is what we need to do. We need to be ready for real power outages. God forbid there is an actual event. You are the last line of defense. So literally, if you are called for an actual event, it means the grid's about to go brownout, blackout. Which is why we haven't had an event. We haven't been that close to catastrophe, knock on wood, in the last, since 2006, the last 9 years. But it's an early warning system. So not necessarily a bad thing. And then the last thing is corporate social responsibility, being green. This by being in a program like this prevents the grid from having to turn on dirty peaking plants. So good for the environment, and actually good for being a good sort of corporate citizen or a municipal citizen, if you will. Not a bad thing. It's saying to your constituents, hey, we're doing everything we can, and we're bringing in all the money that we can, and actually preventing other power plants from popping up in your backyard. NIMBY is always a problem with power plants. So this is sort of the why sea power. I would say this slide is almost not really applicable in the situation, because we are basically the only company that has capacity left in Massachusetts. I'm sorry?
To do this?
Yeah. So Enernoc, if you've ever heard of that company, they're actually based out of Boston. They left the New England market 2 years ago now, and took their capacity and went home. And speculatively, they probably sold it on the open market for a good profit, because those were the market conditions at that time. But they left New England. They seem to be focusing more on what telemetry, put a meter on everything in a building, and they can start to say what's going on in anything in a building. And also, when they got out, the prices weren't skyrocketing. So we were, as Constellation, the big dog in there, and so with the real-time emergency generation, the generation part specifically, we can see what percentage. I think we're over 96% or 97% of the entire New England market. So that, and we're transparent, good people, straightforward relationship, but we're kind of the only dance partner in town as it is today, and probably for the foreseeable next 4 years anyway, because of capacity. The auctions won't happen. The auctions are already known that far out. This is just a little bit about how we do our process. And again, this is how, and if I ever had a competitive situation selling against other companies, this is a great slide. Basically says, we don't just set up, show up, and you don't see us again. We'll see you in 4 years and talk about a renewal. This is sort of an ongoing thing. So we not only install and get you enrolled and get you activated and obviously work on settlement, but also, hey, how can we improve the process? What things are happening, what changes might the commission be making? Well, let's get ahead of it, or let's put a meter a certain way, because you're going to be adding a generator, or we're trying to increase the size of the facility. Well, where are you doing that? If that's the case, let's make sure capacity is tight. It's not just limitless. So as we maybe look forward, if there was some significant increase, we may have capacity in other markets, and if we have an ability to show the ISO, we already have somebody that is going to be able to fulfill that capacity. Here's their track record. This is what they're doing. It's a municipality. It's not a fly-by-night company. they need another, 4 or 5 megawatts there. If we know that and we're having conversations and sort of continually optimizing, we can then say, hey, you know what, when you get that facility up and running, we know we're gonna have the money to pay you, so you're gonna have the revenue for that program. So that's essentially what this slide says. So some typical costs, typical questions, common questions, what it costs to participate. So there's no out-of-pocket costs for customers. The metering that we're talking about, we basically front the money for, and it gets paid back by the initial revenues. So it doesn't have any out-of-pocket expenses. Risks, that's kind of the reason you do a business with a large company like us, is it's portfolio management for us. This applies less, I'd say, to generators, because generators, it's typically straightforward. They turn on the generator, this is the amount of energy they pick up. Either you turn it on or you don't turn it on. That applies more to the risk, for people who have 18 machines or production lines that they may shut down, and they decide, oh, we don't want to shut down the 15 we agreed to, we're only going to shut down 10 because we have to get a product out. So how do you know you can curtail? We put a meter in, and we're going to run a test too, just to make sure, okay, yep, it confirms what Guy and I had been talking about, what we think the load is, make sure that, oh yeah, that meter, or that utility meter's picked up entirely by this generator or these 2 generators. Okay, well, a test will quickly confirm that. So we can get a pretty solid number. And again, it's turning on a generator, doesn't affect any production for the town. So that applies more for people for DR who are turning things off to perform. And then my contact information. So that's, hopefully I didn't torture you too much and give you more information than you ever cared to know about demand response, but I suppose it's good to know that these programs are out there, and as you guys are thinking, how to be green, how to be more efficient, that, there's programs like this and others out there available to you. Any questions, or?
Yeah, I have a question. What percentage does C-Power take?
Okay, so the typical split would be a 60-40 split, where the town gets 60% of those numbers, and we would take 40% of those numbers.
And plus any expenses that you incur, that would go along with that as well, too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the initial metering costs come off the top, come out of your percentage of 60%, not out of pocket, but out of your percentage. So, and the typical metering costs are around $3,000 to put 1 meter on. If we were talking 2 service meters and the 2 generators, it's either 2 meters, or it might be able to be handled with 1, depending on proximity of the 2 utility meters coming in. These are kinds of things we do with an engineering study.
Can you go back to that
Sure.
slide that,
Which one? This one, okay.
So, have you pre-qualified us yet? No.
You're pre-qualified because you're what I like to say, a perfect customer or prospect, because you were already in the program. You were in with Enernoc in the past. So that, in essence, I would consider maybe not a full pre-qualification, because we don't know exactly what your performance was in the Enernoc days. We just don't have those numbers. We don't have the data available. But we know that you're in demand response. We know that there's already some of the technology in there, although most of it would have to be replaced. There are certain things that come off the utility meters. If that's how it's metered, we'd find out. It would save us from having to go to the utility and have them put on what basically your utility meter, they put out a pulse output. How many ticks a second, and that's how much power you're using. Well, that's how building management systems and our data loggers and people that do things with solar, this is how they get readings off of your meter to find out how much power you're either making or saving or producing. So I think that technology is probably already installed because you were already in the program. So kind of pre-qualified, when Enernoc, I will say this, I guess this, when Enernoc left the business, I still come across people that didn't know that the program didn't end, that the money and the revenues they enjoyed, they thought were gone forever. It was kind of the Dear John letter that they were sent out by that company kind of made them all think, oh, this is done, they don't do it anymore. And it couldn't be further from the truth, as you saw that hockey stick spike. It's actually quite lucrative and sort of a little bit, and even better than the old days that I hear, from pre the forward capacity market. So I still, I was telling Guy this, the people I love to run into are the former, customers, because they get it. And more, less for emergency generation. It's turning the generator on. There's no effect to the business. But for people who have to go around and I can't shut anything off. Well, the people who are in the program in the past and just like to get a certain revenue out of it, they get it, and culturally they get it, and so does that answer your question?
I have another question.
Please.
This entails a contract, and what's the term of the contract? How long?
The term of the contract goes out to the seasons that we know that we have the pricing for. So it goes out to May 31st of 2019. That's the end of the program year. The program year runs from June 1st, and this is for, I think, all power and all capacity programs. The utility program years are June 1st to May 31st. And
Is there a penalty if we do not
Get on it
or?
on time?
there's not a penalty, you don't get paid. So,
Okay.
and unfortunately, that's a
That is a
penalty, because
penalty.
if you don't get paid, we don't get paid either. So we certainly, I will also say this, well, we know things happen. Well, we know people turn on generators and find out, well, the switchgear broke. Okay, well, those are good things to know, from both companies. And certainly part of this, continuous optimization, those are the kinds of things where we want to create that dialogue. Not all of our competitors in all markets do that, but it's good to know, because it might not be during the event that you realize, but you might be running monthly tests and you realize, switchgear's down. Well, it'd be great that if we're in constant contact, you let us know, so maybe we can adjust the enrollment, saying, all right, they're going to be down. We need to take them out for this period because we know they're not going to be able to perform, and then that way the grid's not expecting it. So.
But you said we get paid even though we don't
don't
turn on
do
the
it.
generator.
Right.
No, you get paid if there's no events, but you'll always have the test.
The two tests.
So the two
Two
tests.
tests,
So
okay.
in absence of a true event, which again we haven't had since 2006, but in absence of a true event, that 1 hour test in the summer, in their infinite wisdom, the grid has determined that the summer is 8 months and that the winter is 4 months. So whatever you did on that summer test, if there's no event, like there hasn't been, that becomes, so you do 100% for that, of the number the 1 megawatt. Well, that's what you get for the 8 summer months. You get paid as if you performed that megawatt, that 100%, that entire megawatt. If you did 90% for the winter test, well, you get 90% sort of credit, or 900 kilowatt credit for the 4 months. And that's how they'd end up doing the pay. So it's not a penalty per se, but
Just
it is what it is.
less
I
revenue.
can quote Belichick.
And according, when you have these peak events, you will let us know a half an hour prior to?
Yeah, and it turns out it's closer to probably 26 minutes, but basically the grid lets us know, and then we have a knock system that we can contact, upwards of, I think it's 100 people. I don't think anyone has that many, but if it's Guy and whomever else needs to be in the loop to let them know, hey, there's an event. If there's technology, or maybe some people like to use revenues to add technology so you can auto start the generator remotely. We call it automatic or semi-automatic ADR, automatic demand response, but you get the notification from us, a text message, there's going to be an event,
Bang.
turn on the generator. Or, somebody over there, and maybe Guy's not over there, but somebody else is over there saying, it could even be, I'm sorry, what was the woman's name?
The office?
Yeah.
Becca or Lee?
Lee, it was Lee. So even Lee might say, I don't know if I can turn on a generator, but this is what ends up happening at some of these facilities is people just say, okay, if ever I need to call, here, walk over, hit this button. It starts up the generator, gives the generator a few moments to warm up, different than a blackout, and then pull us down. Oh, okay. And it's funny, we've had people that, I'll say I've never done it. I'm confident I could, knowing that some of these other people that are we were very fearful of doing it, but then it becomes a cultural thing. So it's like, okay, anybody over there, if we get a demand response event and I call you and we kind of, like I said, I know it's in July this year, which is why we, even though we missed the June start, July will help make up for it. There'll be a slight, so since we missed June for this first season, we'll be looking at 2/3 of the summer payment because it's the 3 performance months, June, July, August. We missed June, but we get July and August credit. So we know it's in July. If guy happens to be on vacation, he can call somebody, flick, turn it on, and perform and have a set procedure. Now we work with people to create what are called the curtailment plans. For generators. It's typically pretty easy. It's okay. This is what you do in your gear. How do you test it? We do this. Okay, we'll do that then. It's the same. It's the same as you'd run your typical tests.
So would you still come in though and do an audit or curtailment plan for an energy audit within the building and the facilities for lighting and other curtailment measures for maybe you could run this off peak and run this at this time or?
Yeah, so I guess I'll want to just clarify and say it's not like an energy audit. Like there are companies out there that do
Right.
energy audits and would say, okay, these lights use X amount, this, that, or the other thing. That's not necessarily what we would do. We could take an energy audit and say, oh, okay, if you were able to curtail this, and this, we'd use that energy audit information and say, hey, here's what you should do. More what we do, and I think big machinery, it's sort of commercial and industrial things. Because you would need to shut off a lot of lights for things to make a difference. And most people, you run around flicking switches. In that 25-minute period, you'd really have to have building management system in where you could just say take off bang, 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 or reset temperature sets. That's another one that's common. But what we would do would come in and say, oh, okay, so this is you may have big steam chillers somewhere in town that that people could. Oh, okay, well we can see that's a big energy use. If you were to dial that back, this is how much you could probably expect. We'd run a little test to verify that, and then help work out a plan and say, okay, don't just shut everything down at once. Here's a stepped approach to go down, and then while you're down for the hour test, or since it's load shed, you may get the one event, maybe 2 events a year. Here's how you should turn things back on.
Mm-hmm.
People have learned if you flick everything on, then everything
It's gonna be
spikes,
surge,
Yeah.
and then it levels off,
Right.
and then now it won't affect sort of your capacity tag that the ISO program necessarily, but your local utility has its own little spikes. It sees that high and it's, I'm going to apply that to your entire energy usage when it was one brief moment in
Right.
time they apply it. So it's you just work out, and through the technology you can actually on your phone look and say, okay, turn that on and see it go up a little bit, turn
Right,
that
turn
other
that
big
on.
machine on. So it's kind of neat that way. If there were other large loads, large controllable loads in town. So
You mentioned something about the gas lines and not coming up this way. Didn't they just extend that Algonquin line not too long ago?
they're trying to extend this. There's things from Canada, there's things from the south.
But it hasn't been successful yet?
It's nowhere close to successful yet.
Really?
There's more spurs coming. There's another one coming in to Connecticut, but we are gonna still have. You'll see that in your electric. I don't sell electricity. I used to be with a
Yeah.
supply company, so I was at the morning meeting every Monday and hearing all this, winter reliability stuff and polar vortices, and they would love to double the Algonquin pipeline.
Mhm.
Apparently, it would be obsolete before we got there, before it was done, and they can't even get that done. And a lot of it's NIMBY. Now they've got, again, layman, but from what I understand, we've got this 10-inch or 12-inch gas pipe is a big part. I would think it's like the Alaskan, but it's not. It's the smaller pipe, and we've already got the right of way. Why don't we just lay on we got the easements, put one
Right.
next to it. Well, apparently you can't do that, and the amount of money to dig up, and then getting the permission to do that, and the time to do it. What they're also talking about is putting an outer sleeve to just sort of double the size of the set. And at the end of the day, so more of these coal and oil-fired burners are going to be retiring. So these prices, this spike, and this thought that natural gas is the preferred fuel
Right,
for these
right.
things, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was such a small percentage. And, you know, now it needs to be the highest percentage, and that's why we have the LNG tankers here. This is, and it's, yeah.
See, when I left my business, it's 10 years ago, the expansion of the Algonquin line was nothing but the talk.
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people still fighting that that's all it still is, because it's like anything else. We know it's a problem. We know we need to do something, but nobody can get anything done. Now we've got these sort of shale operations out of Pennsylvania and New York, so New York's getting cheap power. Well, that's close. We don't even have to run it up from, you know, down south. We're not running it in from Canada. Just run it down
West
the Mass
Virginia.
Pike. You know, that's what I say. Well, but no one
listens.
listens to me, so that's.
Okay.
I have a question on some of the, I don't know if this.
Okay, good. Yeah, you've got that. You know, and I was going to include it. That's the revenue
Right.
split. Yeah, revenue
so-
projection.
Right, so, this was a table that you guys generated for the town.
Correct.
Okay, and this is based on the two tests, just the minimally of the two tests?
It's not based on that. Most likely, that's all you're going to have. What
Right.
that is that says, you know, so how the grid thinks of it is for capacity. When you sign up for the program, you need to turn the generator on. They own the capacity, whether it's 0 times in just the 2 tests,
Yeah,
1, 2, or 3 events. Well, as we saw on that other slide, well, there haven't been any tests. Events.
any events, right.
But the 2 tests are just to prove that, okay, you say you can do a megawatt in the summer,
Correct.
there it is, we proved it. Okay, you can say you can do 2 megawatts in the winter, okay, great, we've proven that. So that number is probably, if it holds serve like it has the last, you know, since 2006, last 9 years, same thing, that's gonna be about 2 hours worth of work
Okay.
to realize those revenues.
Wow.
And those numbers there, so you can see, it follows kind of that spike that,
Right.
so for 2014-15 where we are, if you took that number and multiplied it times 12,000, because that's a per kilowatt month, what is it, $3.40?
$3.04.
Okay, multiply it times 12,000 and you're gonna come up to those numbers. That's basically how they get there. That's the per kilowatt month that the auction clears at. And again, full transparency, you can go to the ISO website and see. There's been other companies that don't necessarily run that way.
So we don't have data on here for 2014-15, which is, so we're looking at June 1st of this year moving, this is the first data that we
Moving
have.
forward, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, right. So, but, and again, we missed the June one, so it is, you
So
know, we're
looking
trying
at
to work
two,
for a
so looking
July
at two, so
start.
we're looking at
Yeah.
two.
So, you know, we've, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, you know, the commission was all new coming in, so we're, you know, certainly waiting to be able to present, and the timing wasn't ideal,
Right.
but
And is the payout 2 times a year? If that's the case, I say that it says it's a 60-day delay. So, you know, we come on, do our June, July, we do our July and August setup. Basically, you're gonna take off the top of that what the cost of the meters was installed, and then we get a payment for, I have solar power on my house, and we auction 4 quarters a year. And then but it takes almost a second quarter by the time we receive an auction payment for the kilowatt that we generate. You know, I mean, 1,000 kilowatts that we generate when we generate off of it. So is it a similar thing where we run in July and August? That's our 60-day times, and we get a payment. Town gets a payment, and Guy gets a payment in October, and then later on during the winter we get another payment in.
yeah.
Okay, so
For New England, we
two
pay
payments a year.
quarterly,
Okay.
and it's
Oh, you
60
pay
days after the end of the quarter.
Okay.
So,
So it's quarterly payment.
you
So
know,
it's-
April, May, June. So you start July, August, September is probably, you're gonna start the Q3 basically, and the third quarter payment then would be paid by Christmas, I think is that. So
Okay.
July, you know, let's see, July, August, September, October, November, so by the end of November.
Okay,
they
so we're
try
gonna
and-
get we would get 4 payments.
4 payments a year. That's how we've done it in New England, yeah. And you're generating a megawatt on your house?
No, generating,
1,000 kilowatts.
kilowatts, yeah. Well, every year.
Oh, kilowatt, you're probably talking kilowatt hours then.
Right,
Yeah.
kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours is different than kilowatt,
Right.
so, yeah, okay. That makes more sense. I
Yeah,
was
we
gonna say,
get,
wow,
yeah,
that's a,
for every,
that's
for
a
every
big
1,000 kilowatt,
system.
right, for every 1,000 kilowatt hours that we generate,
Like,
you.
did they know you have solar panels over the
goes-
chere bog?
Yeah, that's
if you were
right.
doing- If you were doing it.
I didn't tell you that I live in a warehouse with, yeah,
Yeah, exactly, 500,000 square foot warehouse.
that's right. So, all right, so 4 payments a year, so we're looking at that, so it's not just the one lump coming in that way, it's spread out.
Right.
And you'll take the cost of the meters comes off initially right off the bat.
Yeah.
You don't spread that out over the 4 payments.
Correct.
It just comes right out of the first payment, so we're looking at a lower first payment, all that.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you figure out that, with the 3,000 out of that, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I suppose I could hop over to it, but out of the first payment, the size of what we think this is, it's about 1,000 kilowatt system.
It's minimal,
Yeah,
it's not bad from that standpoint, I'm just looking at how it will come out, so, it's one thing when people go, well, why is it not what we expected? Did you
Yeah.
got to factor
right,
those
no,
things
that's full transparency,
Yeah,
and I
right.
think that you've experienced it in the past, and certainly we, if ever you need a person to call, certainly you'll have the one neck to grab with me, but also then we've got a team, we're based out of Baltimore, so we've got a team in Baltimore, we've got a team, we're based out of Wakefield, so, and I'm out of Holliston, usually on the road, yeah, so lovely Holliston.
So the next step that you would have for us then would be to actually go to the plant physically, evaluate what meters are already in place over there, or do an analysis of that.
The next step, well, first would be contracting. We get the contract, we're good to go, and then what we would do is set up our metering team. We have a third-party company come in, and we put the meters on. We already have the generator information provided from Guy and his team. So I don't think we received the permit information. Guy, do you know if you sent the permits for the generators, if they need them?
I'm not sure if we need them.
So and this is another one of the benefits that with the EPA and FERC and all the things that they come down on, that we could just verify that all the proper permits are in place. And it's the same permit to run it as an emergency generator. And typically I'd say that those in New England and Massachusetts are 300 hours.
Mhm.
Well, you can see the amount of hours we're talking about. It doesn't, people get nervous, it affects the
Yeah.
permit. We're not even close to that. I mean, we get a superstorm, you have to run it for days and days and days.
You
So
still
that
not
2
at
hours
right,
is not
right,
really
right,
your,
right.
So that's typically what an emergency permit allows for, and people will test. If you test for 1 hour a month, you're gonna have the 12 hours on there. But it helps make sure, because some people don't necessarily know they're not in full compliance. It's just another benefit of the program. It's like, hey, this is what we know you need now, and the rules have changed since you've last checked, and it's kind of like those things that they don't tell you your license is up, you need to know that, and so it's another good thing for compliance in the program.
Emergency generation is part of our permitting to operate. We're mandated or obligated to have emergency generation per DEP regulations.
So you may be under some Title V too
No choice.
that blankets it, so, yeah.
Mm.
So those are the kinds of things that I guess it's the EPA, but also the ISO just likes to say, oh, it's part of our burden to make sure that our customers are fully permitted.
And that's so you guys take all that on.
Yeah, we help work with the customer. I don't want to say that, hey, we'll go get the permit, we'll
Right,
run it
right,
out
right,
to the DEP, but we're basically saying, oh, okay, this is what you have, let us know what you have for any Title V or for the town, okay, that's perfect, you're good to go, or, hey, we need to talk and get one of these, and fill out that. And we've got third-party companies that we can certainly work with as well.
And so from a time standpoint then, we know we're gonna miss the June
Right.
aspect, but we shouldn't have any problem depending on how we act as a board to
Correct.
hit onto the deadline.
So for July, our time frame for July is unfortunately tight. So depending on how we meter, and so here's the two facets. So if we meter at the utility meter, which you get the benefit of having the technology, and you might hopefully already have the outputs based on your old metering. That's the utility outputs there, because that's the wild card. The utility can take days or weeks, and we've seen months
Yes,
to put those things in. And it's like, I'm your biggest user in the area, and you can't come out and install. Yeah, so if you've already got those, then that cuts out that wild card for time. However, those meters need to be installed in the first week of June, so you can get 21 days of baseline feeding to the ISO. If it's metered at the output of the generator, you don't get any benefit of the technology because it's just reading zeros. And so the install date is around the 20th of the month, because then, you know, that's the enrollment deadline to make sure all the paperwork is in order, given to the ISO for their approval. The meter goes on, and it's going to read zeros up until the moment you have to turn it on for, you know, the test.
Okay.
So
Question, the meter that we install through Interlock for this, does that meter have any value? I mean, it's there, so there's no value to that?
no value. And it's. I mean, I'm not sure you could use it for anything else. I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons they got out when they got in. Enernoc came in early, and they were the big gorilla. But the rules were different too. So I mean, again, I'll say it's speculation, but some of the variances that they have had on their metering were okay 5, maybe even 10 years ago, but they're not settlement grade now within a 2%, you know, variance. So there's no salvage. It's basically you rip them. The only value is the pulses that they were reading from are, you know, the KYZ outputs should still be, yeah, they should be there, unless you know, Enernoc could have taken the readouts from the output of the generator. So there's like a
They
CT.
installed some meters, what you're talking about, they did the same thing. They had to contact the provider.
Oh, they did.
and that's
Perfect. Well, there's
it's
your.
all there. So that's why I said it had any value, because that's what they based it on. And it's
Yeah.
still there, so I didn't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't. We always look. I think there was one case we could use some of the Enernoc metering, one out of, I mean, I don't know, 1,000, but hundreds. But we're trying to, you know, obviously cover the new metering specs that, you know, ISO has put out, and also future-proof it, so we're not swapping it out in 3 years when they decide, nope, this is what we're gonna go. You know, you can sort of see where the winds are going on what they want for settlement grade. So,
That makes sense.
yeah.
But me,
But you've answered the question. Well, it definitely helps with the time. If you know that they already had to go through the rigmarole with the utility to come out and put the pulses in, the pulses should be good. I've never had a case that I know of that the pulses weren't able to be reused.
and this payment structure for the 2 annuals will be the same whether we go and we're asking online with no events, but let's say we have 8 events. This is still the same structure.
Correct.
So the events, this is it, no matter what.
So that is the capacity part of it. Should you have the 1, 2, or 3 events, if that ever happened, it's the energy payment. Every time you turn on the generator, you'd get that energy payment. It's I'll call it a few $100s. It could be a few $1,000 if things were really bad, but it's probably a few $100 covers your fuel. But the capacity payment is fixed. It's a fixed capacity. They figure if it's 1 megawatt, they own the megawatt. Is how they think of it.
So there's the potential of money on top of this if we were called upon for those particular aspects.
For your 2 1-hour tests,
Right.
so you're gonna
It's
get
another
additive. It's called an
rate-
energy payment.
Yeah, right. It's like they're buying back the energy that we're selling. So-
Basically, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not using whatever the real time energy cost at
Right.
that moment. You're
They're
not using it,
so they're gonna pay you for
therefore
it.
then
Right.
you're getting
Yeah.
paid for it. So.
Which could be anywhere between $300 and $1,000 depending on what it's going for. It's
Yeah, I
different.
mean, you
Yeah.
can look on the ISO website right now. You can,
Yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, whatever they're charging the customer, they're gonna pay us. Yeah.
but that's a gratuity that typically goes to the superintendent.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
So-
Who then takes the board out to dinner? No. Oh God, don't go there. Anyway. Yeah. So this is guaranteed for where we are, and it could go slightly beyond that depending on where we're looking at it.
I don't know what the next move is. Well, you'll have to draw up a contract.
Yeah, so the draft contracts might even be in that packet, because I sent the draft
I don't
contract.
believe
right?
He
Yeah,
didn't send
no.
it. He
What
didn't
I
send
would
that.
do is, I'll ask Dave if we have a draft contract. That draft contract will add the town's rigmarole to it. 'Cause
Right.
we have different things that we add to it. And then I can send it to the board for review, it's gonna go to the attorney for review.
Mhm.
So the quicker I get that, I can start this process.
Yeah, I can send that even tonight to have the draft language. I think, yeah, all right, I'll check, yeah, I thought
Yeah, but I don't have to-
yeah, I'll resend if I didn't send, or if I sent already, but yeah. So the good thing is when we were with Constellation and Big Energy, it was a 17-page contract that covers about, now we're just a demand response company. It's down to 5 pages and doesn't have all the legalese, so it is certainly easier to get through.
Everyone has stuff.
Yeah, well, that's, they're,
I have that contract.
it was something when we were creating the company, we specifically looked at, because people were like, wait a minute, does not apply, does not apply, does not apply, but, I mean, we had a huge legal department at Constellation, where now we just have a small legal team that apparently does not get paid by the word, thankfully, so. Apologies to any lawyers that are on the board, I should probably say that, I come from a family of them, but, corporate lawyers more, but.
Okay, then you will get that draft to Guy, and
Yep.
then we'll take it from there.
All right,
We'll
excellent,
look at
thank you.
it And be back in touch with you. And thank you for coming.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. So it was a nice drive down, except for a few pockets of traffic for the holiday.
Holliston's nothing from here, 495.
No, I know, and I'm heading, family's houses in Falmouth. I'll be heading back down there tomorrow night, but it looks like some people got a head start because
They
there
did
was,
today have some.
Yeah, there was,
coming back
there were
from
pockets
Stoughton.
of standstill on the way down, but other than that, a pleasant ride.
Well, you could head down to Falmouth now and have them meet you.
Yeah, I've got an almost 4-year-old boy that my wife's gonna say, yeah, no, get home, we need help packing up the dog and the boy. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank
If
you.
any other
Chris, appreciate
questions,
that.
Guy has my information. If any questions come up, please don't hesitate. I know it's a lot of information to digest, but more than willing to answer.
Hopefully it'll be a very lucrative
Yeah.
endeavor for us.
Yeah,
Well, just that guarantee of,
21.
that's good deal. That's nice.
Yeah, and if anyone had any, those are fixed numbers, the capacity prices.
Yeah,
Right.
so, right.
In other
Thank-
markets, they're true estimates, but around here, it's fixed.
And there is a website that I went on to for ISO.
Sure.
That was,
that's the way it looks.
was
Yeah.
very interesting. It's www.iso-ne.com.
Yeah, it's right on.
You can get the real-time pricing,
Right.
that's where you can see,
Right.
like, at any given moment where they spike and what the grid's doing and how some of the grid stack and why it's important, I think, for people to get in programs like this.
Okay.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Good
Have a
night.
evening.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday weekend.
You as well.
Safe
Drive
trip.
safe.
So once we get that draft, Guy will have to send it, he'll have to go through Attorney Bowen, he'll have to go
yeah,
through
I
all
don't
the
even see,
channels in
I don't
town.
see it getting done.
I don't see it getting done before July. I don't see us getting on there for that, but maybe with a little gentle nudge, we'll get it. I don't know.
We'll do our very best, I think. I'm sorry. A gentle nudge, probably, it's gonna be maybe a little more than gentle, but
Yeah.
we'll have to just kind of get it in, do our part of it, and just get over there ASAP. We'll immediately send it over through email to the attorney, express the urgency, we need this done by the 1st of June. And so maybe he'll take the time to review it. I can also send him the contract from Eninoc to pass one to give him some comparisons. So whatever we can do to facilitate it, we'll try to do.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Well, we're gonna see if we can actually expedite it before the 1st of June, because it's, you want the metering on, so
We'll
that
do
you
it
get
next
your
week.
21 days worth of data sent to ISO one, so that they can do that.
And
I
you're-
don't see it getting through the, I just don't see it, but. hey,
Who knows?
listen,
Well,
We'll
we'll
see
think
how good you
positively.
are, guys.
We'll think positively.
the
How
meter-
good we all are.
That was a utility meter, so you already had the utility companies on the Antioch meter, that was already integrated.
Yes, it has been.
So that's just really a change out of meter, since
That's
that,
my
everything's in
thoughts.
place.
Should be.
That's
but
my
we still know
thoughts.
how the utility company
Yeah,
feel about it,
true.
so.
I was thinking we could use the existing meter, but he talked about,
Yeah, no.
being antiquated or whatnot, but that's already been done. So the utilities already come in and did their part. So the pulses are there, so that
Okay.
should save a considerable amount of time.
Right, they
The
would just-
pulses are already there.
They just have to change the
What-
meter out to be the meter that will transmit the data that they want
That they
to
want,
transmit that way,
specific.
so.
But we'll still have to notify the utility company.
I'm not so sure. They will notify the
They'll
utility
do
company.
that,
That's
yeah.
what they do.
Way
If
to
the
go.
pulse is there,
Um,
we're done.
The only thing, what day of the week does Attorney Bowen come in? He comes in
Thursdays.
Thursdays.
But what I do is I'll text him, I'll
And
email him,
the
get it
thing,
to him, and so he can
Hopefully,
prepare.
he'll have it all
Yeah.
set for Thursday, next Thursday.
Exactly.
Be nice if it
So
was
that would be the goal.
Mm.
Yeah. I know he comes in one day a week
Right.
every
So-
week.
Okay,
I
don't leave that table for a minute,
Okay, no,
Um,
I attention to go.
because the next thing is the town of Bourne usage fee for the fourth quarter billing. I don't like to assume anything.
Mhm.
So this bill, we have to vote on it. It has to be voted on. We all have to sign it and get it back to Rebecca so she can send it to Mr. Foster, our treasurer collector. This is the normal billing that, is
Yes.
there anything out of the ordinary?
No.
Okay,
It's the quarter bill, what we did at the end of the fiscal year, we balance the budget, and so we know what we've spent. We take the 2014 budget and we do the comparison. So what happens is that at the end of the year, our actual expenditures, they have a percent of that. So
okay,
this bill is based on last year's actuals.
okay,
And so then we break it over the four quarters, take that number, 4 quarters, like 260 something, and they pay a quarterly fee. And so
okay,
this is the fourth quarter of the 2015 budget year.
okay.
Okay.
Make a
All right.
motion, we accept the billing.
Yes, you gonna make a motion? that we
Did.
accept- He did.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
I have the signing.
You have that one
I
signed?
have the, no,
Oh, you
I
have the
have
one
the
that has to
signing
be signed.
document.
Okay.
Give back to
Okay, so
Diane.
I'm gonna pass
Just
this.
pass it along.
Right.
And then that'll go back.
And folded, I'll take that.
Yeah, back to Rebecca,
So I
and
have
she
a
will send it up
Signature
to.
for the
Yep.
filing that needs to be signed with.
There you go. Okay. All righty,
So that passed
So-
unanimously, right?
that passed unanimously. So the next thing is the sewer superintendent's report. Guy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before I get into the actual report, I was given this today from Mr. Foster, and it's something to be signed by the Board of Sewer Commissioners Chairman. And I would like to give this to the clerk, and you can all review it. And I don't understand it totally, but in a nutshell, they're taking a piece of property, which is a betterment, that we have a betterment on. And I believe once we sign this document, we waive the rights to the betterment so they can sell it, and there's no betterments applied. So I don't totally, so I want to give it to you to read, and then we can ask questions of attorneys, because they're asking you to sign this, and I want you to be able to read and understand it before you sign. So I'm going to give it, and you can.
Okay.
Is it just the one copy we have?
Yes,
so what I
have, so I give it, and I can get more copies and send them over to you, but
No.
I was asked to take it, bring it to the next meeting and have the chairman sign it,
Mhm.
but I think you should.
I'm not gonna sign it till I read it.
Understand it before you sign, that's all I'm saying, I don't know, and so
I
I think we can
understand
share
it.
it.
You understand?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to you now to take a look at, because you're the one that needs to sign it. You still- oh, you
It's a
signed it.
chairman to sign. I know that personally, we had a piece of property that they auctioned off, and there was a betterment remaining on it, and I tried to collect it, and I was told because they auctioned it, we're not entitled to any of those fees. So we lost the revenue, and maybe that's common, but that may be the document that may give it, we're waiving that right, so I don't understand it, so you're asked to sign it, so I think you need to understand it, and then you can do what you need to do with it, or ask the proper questions.
So
a
this
piece
is
of
already-
property that's buildable?
I'm not so sure. I have no idea what the property is. They're just asking us to waive our claim
This
to
doesn't
monies.
even tell us where the
So-
property is.
Okay,
To land court.
we're only waiving our claim to the monies that they're collecting on the sale.
No, I think what we're waiving our monies to, there's a lien on this property that we
Right,
have.
We're dropping the lien for them to sell it, so we have no claim on the monies that they're collecting.
Correct. So the
That
monies
doesn't
that's owed to
mean-
us
they're
just
not
goes away.
saying- They're not saying that we don't have the right to go after betterment.
Well, yes.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, they are saying.
Yeah, they
that,
are.
Are
Jimmy.
they saying that?
They're
Yes,
saying
absolutely.
basically that,
We're waiving our
they're gonna
rights.
keep the profits,
Yeah.
and they're not gonna pay the sewer enterprise fund any of the betterments that are owed. and they're obviously not gonna make the new owner pay them. That's what they're saying.
Correct. That's my experience. So I think that you guys can ask the questions
I don't like
inside,
that.
because I asked them,
I'd
and
like to have that explained.
yes, I would find out.
I'd like to know where the property is.
It
There's not
doesn't-
even
it
an
just says-
address on it.
As discussed, we are now in the search phase of the land court case associated with the above referenced parcel. Gerald versus Robert, it doesn't say
Doesn't-
where it is.
no.
You know, I don't
Do
see
you-
that, so.
Do you have a timeline on this, on us signing that?
I was asked to have you sign it this evening, so that's what I'm
So-
saying. So I don't have a
Oh,
timeline
it's,
when it has to be
it's-
done.
It's 15th Avenue.
So that must be Wee Antic
Sounds like it,
at
yeah.
15th Avenue, or is it?
15,
On-
Wait a minute,
on-
15th
on-
Avenue
on-
is on, yeah, Main, off of Main Ave.
Yes.
Could be off of
Oh,
Main
or
Ave.
it could be Hathaway, off of Hathaway.
But I think you're right, because I think Avenue is, I think these are
15th
streets over
Avenue.
Streets, and
here.
that's Avenue and
I believe
Onset.
Avenue and Onset on Main,
Okay.
and I believe it's 15th. So that'll be off of Main Ave, with those side streets. So it's one of those parcels, whatever it is. I don't know if it's a building or land, but
Do further research and.
If it has a betterment, I would think it would be a buildable lot, wouldn't it?
I would think,
You
I would
think so,
agree.
Matt?
I don't know, but I would
There's
agree
a
with
good
you.
chance.
I don't know.
I mean, if it's been assessed a betterment, it would have,
Doesn't necessarily mean it was a buildable
Well,
lot.
yeah.
It might have been assumed that somebody would build on it, but it doesn't necessarily.
But we
mean it
have a
conforms.
lien on that right now.
We're
yeah.
owed money, yes, we have a
We're
lien.
owed money,
I
so
understand that, but
before I sign that, I want to check with Attorney Bowen as to why we aren't going to get our money
Exactly.
call
prior
John.
to. So I'll call him.
I'd ask John.
I'd be a part of the sale,
Or
they
John,
would
I'll-
assume it.
Well, tomorrow they're not there,
No,
So,
tomorrow's Friday.
Call
and
Peter.
You
Monday's
don't have to
the
sign it tonight.
holiday,
correct?
Mm.
Okay,
so.
so we don't have to sign that tonight, do we need a motion that you will do some research on it and find out some
Or you
information?
could call Peter Tadwell, he could tell
I
you.
can call Peter.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to say that Miss Chairperson Jordan will do some research on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye,
aye.
that's three.
I'm sure Peter will be able to answer it right off the bat.
Yeah, I'll call Peter and
Just to
find out.
know, just get some direction, because I don't know enough about it to tell you, but
No,
it just seems that we're leaving some money on the table.
So, yeah, before I
I wouldn't sign it.
sign away our right to however much the betterment was,
Then why would we do that?
yeah, we need money just like the town.
More than-
Anyway, yes.
Okay, so I apologize, but I wanted to get
That's
that out, so
okay.
it's
Not a
it's
problem.
out there and we can do what we want. You all have a copy of my report. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
straightforward tonight. First thing I want to talk about is we're starting to, sand filters are starting to work. We're pretty excited about that. We're denitrifying.
I don't think it got in the packet, guy.
Everybody should have, I thought, I asked you to put it in everybody's packet.
No, I don't see it.
Why don't you give it to me and not anybody
Do
else?
we have a photocopy machine here?
It doesn't work. I've tried to hit it a couple
No,
of times.
no, we don't have it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. You can read it to us. How's
Yeah,
that?
It's just not,
I-
well, these are
Should give
agendas.
you copies?
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
surprised.
Rebecca's, yeah, that's not like her.
No, it isn't.
That's not like
Hit the highlights.
Still in the watch?
Guy?
Well, yeah, I'll show you real quick. It's just, the three things I was gonna talk about. I was gonna talk about the water quality at the plant with nitrified.
Do you have this document on your,
It's not gonna help me here. I don't have it.
That's okay, just read
Show it
it
up
and
here.
show it to us.
No, I don't have my computer
Yeah.
to get this.
Yeah,
If I
okay.
had it, I could put it up.
Oh, there's
Get
no
a hard
Wi-Fi on
copy
that
later,
computer?
Guy.
Yeah, we get a
Just
hard
give us a hard
copy.
copy.
You can read that to us,
I
Guy.
will, I just want, it's just pretty straightforward. but
Yeah.
Get a hard copy
The
later.
goal was to give you this, I'll make sure that you get a copy. of this
Okay.
To see, so you'll know where I am.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's
Yep.
all.
Email it.
That's the goal, and I just apologize. I asked her to, and
Well,
but
things
she's,
happen.
she has been out straight, and
Guy, why don't you just have her email it to us?
okay,
That's fine.
I'll have her get it to you. I really mean that.
You take it.
So,
Save a tree.
I just wanted to, see, I like that. I just wanted to say that, we are starting to denitrify our sand filters. We put so much into the plant from the basin that wasn't any good, that it's really impaired the ability of the nitrifiers to work in the sand filters, and now this coming to life, and we're pretty excited about that. So I wanted to let you know that. As an example, we were coming at 9 ppm or 9 parts per million, and we're going out at 4. Now, that's a significant reduction, so we're pretty excited about it. So I wanted to bring that. To me, it's very positive. The basin is empty. So talking about the odors, the basin is empty. It's bleached. And what we're doing now is we're going to fill it up over the air diffusers with plant or water. So there'll be no odors or anything like that. And then we're going to bleach the living daylights out of it and let it just run and let the bleach dissipate. But we want to disinfect everything. And then we'll pump that into the plant. We'll do residual tests on the chlorine, and once the chlorine's gone, we'll bring that into the plant, and there'll be no residual, any little pocket or corner that we could have missed that may be odorous. So we're pretty excited about that. It's the neighbors should be happy, and we apologize.
How is the odor now?
I'm sorry?
How is the odor now?
We have none. The wind today was blowing at the neighborhoods. We've got no calls or no
Really?
complaints.
Okay.
Yes, it was blowing
Good.
at the neighbors today. Pretty heavy. So.
Well,
Well, you know, you say that,
I
but
have to say that, let me just interject quickly.
Good try.
I did get some other complaints, and I did address them, and I waited until Guy gave me the okay that it was, the basin was empty, and I did email them and tell them that they may smell the odor of bleach within the next few days, weeks, whatever, while it takes that. And so they have been notified ahead of time. I sent the email to Mrs. Morrison and asked her to distribute it to all those people that she has emails for. I have not as yet gotten a list from Mrs. Morrison, but I have asked for one. And so that's what I expect. And we are now live on WCTV, and at the end, I will make a few announcements as to how they can get some information.
Okay.
And I was at the plant yesterday, just to check and see, and it was really fairly minimal. And the basin being empty still had, just residual piece in it, and even that coming off of it, the wind was blowing out of the west coming across it. So I actually said to Guy, let's walk to the other side. Walked over to the other side, and I mean, there was an odor, but it was not knock your socks off, knock down, drag out type of an odor, so.
I didn't smell much of anything Monday.
No.
And Mr. Ames called me. He said he thought he smelled something. We talked to coming back and said, absolutely not. I wanted to give you the good news. So I was excited to have that because, sometimes people don't tell you the good. They're just quick to tell you the bad. So I appreciate him calling and saying, there's the good news.
Yes, and I did get some
I
emails
thought that was-
that were complimentary, so.
So we're trying. I just
Good.
want to emphasize, we are really working at it. It was crazy for us as the neighbors. We're not making excuses. It's just is what it is, and we really empathize with them. It was unfortunate, and we're continuing to do all we can. I also want to say is we have a plan to allot for the future. Someone had talked about proactivity along the west side of that basin, the whole 300 feet. We're going to put posts, 10-foot posts. We're going to put beams across, and we're going to string the entire length atomizers that'll have odor counteractant. If we ever have to use it, we're ready to go with it. So we'll have that installed, ready to go. Just the procedures, that you keeping the bleach in it and doing that, we're just going to do that as a proactive measure. And we're never going to touch the basin. We used to take them offline in December. The winter caught us by surprise, so now we're going to wait till the spring, leave it online, so it has less likelihood of freezing because it'll be warmer and the whole 9 yards. We'll keep air to it and all these things to keep it moving. And then in the spring, when everything's nice, then we'll just pump it in, wash it, and have a minimal impact, if any at all. So we're just going to change procedures and different things. So if we do have a severe winter, we won't get caught like we did last year, doing the normal thing that really, really hit us hard. So we are working. So I wanted to mention that to the board.
Can we have a dial-up system on the atomizers, like Christmas tree scent, or, what I mean, just like,
We could have the
depends
scent
on
of
what
the
your mood
day.
is, you know what I mean?
Right,
It's
right
like-
now I'm carrying lemon.
There we see,
I have flowers,
That's right.
flowery
A
lemon.
little lavender.
They have a
Like
nice
you said,
cookie
I
dough.
loved your selection of
lilac.
essential oils that you have going on there. But,
Yeah.
what do you want today? A little relaxation. Let's
that,
have a little
yeah.
lavender out there. You know what I mean?
And it's a stopgap. I'd rather not use them, but we're gonna have them ready just in
Right,
case
which
we
is a
have
great
to.
idea, right.
Just in case. So
Right.
we'll try to get one step ahead of it.
Very, very proactive.
Ty Bond, they have the report from the CIP. I believe they're on our schedule for the 28th. So
Yes, but that's also the day we do the abatements. Are there,
it's only 3 abatements to this
it's only
point.
3.
Okay,
So if it tends to get crazy, I'll let you know.
okay.
But right now, there's 3 abatements that we've processed. So we should have time for Ty and Bond.
Okay.
And if that changes, I'll let you know.
Rebecca
You can
did
let
tell
me know.
me that she would get the abatements to us by Tuesday, the 26th. I
Yes.
believe it was.
And I think we're gonna try to get you the abatements this week or early next week, because we'll have them processed and get what we have to you so you can review them.
Right,
So when we
via
have the
email.
meeting, you'll at least be able to, understand them, so we can be able to get right through them a little quicker
We
than
should
if you
have them
didn't.
on the 26th via email, so check
Yes.
your email. The
Because I
abatement
signed
should
off
be in there.
today on
Yeah, I
them
have to
three,
turn my
or
computer
I
on.
signed off today on them.
You do?
So we'll get them to you quick. On a note to the GIS, I finally have the website so I can share it with the board to go online and see our infrastructure. So I had to get, I've created it, so I'll get it to the board. You can go online and see your infrastructure, see our manholes, all 3,000 of them, the pipes, the different sizes, the material, the laterals.
3,000 manholes, huh?
Yes, so you can see where they are with the, and so you can kind of, when we talk about a pump station, you'll see those
Yeah.
also. You can kind of get an idea, to your suggestion, an idea of what's what, where are we? And so you can go in there, you can blow it up and shrink it, you can get whatever you want to do. You can see the watertight manholes, the non-watertight manholes, size of the pipes, so you'll be able to start seeing things and on your own be able to figure things. And if you just want to take a ride, at least you know
We're
what
not gonna
you're
have to
looking at.
inspect all 3,000 of them.
No.
We-
No, no,
We're
no.
going to, but you're not have to,
I
but
was
we're
gonna
going
say,
to.
how do you put them on a PM program? 3,000 of them.
It's tough. So what we're doing now
That's
is,
crazy.
we have, it's a CMMS, it's a maintenance program, and every manhole has been given a number. When we went out there, I actually did part 6 and 28 myself, walked with the GIS set right on it, programmed it in, and created the asset. So, and then we gave it a number, and so we know the size of the cover, and that now we're gonna actually get into it and get the depth to the invert, the shelf, the whole 9 yards. But nonetheless, we did this. It took us an entire summer, I think we got done in the middle of September, to do all 3,000 assets. So now what we do is we take those 3,000 assets and we grid them, and then we put out so many per day or per whatever. We're gonna try to do them weekly, so maybe once or twice a week, we'll send a crew out there to do the assets. They're gonna open the covers, inspect the water tights, make sure they're fine, get into it, look at the seal underneath the ring, then they'll look at the cone, then they'll look at the main structure, then they'll look at the floor, the shelving, the inverts, and they'll make a report on it. We have an actual form for that, looking for I&I, cracks, and that type of thing. And when they get done, they'll come up, they'll give that to us, and then we'll enter into the computer, and then the computer's gonna tally it all, and then we'll be able to schedule repairs. Whether it's gonna be doing all the, mortaring or the whatever at one time, or the grates, or the water tights, whatever the case may be. And so it's a continual process forever. And it's just part of the daily routine. And the same thing's gonna happen to all the pipes. The 12-inch pipes, the 8-inch pipes, the 16-inch pipes, the laterals. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna camera them, we're gonna do them in grids, see them, explain what the problems are, what we have, and then we can plan maintenance issues. So this is gonna be an ongoing process. And so it's gonna take manpower, and we've got 2 people starting, and we're gonna try to get another one in July. And it's gonna take concerted effort, and it's gonna change, we're gonna have to change the way we think about things, but we're gonna put it in place, because we have to. And so it's gonna be a task. It isn't gonna be easy, it's gonna be long-term, and yeah, it's gonna be, we're looking forward to it in as much as it needs to be done, but we're scheduling it now, we're planning it now, so, yeah, we're gonna do that. So that's where we are, tie bond, so the 28th, if that changes, I'll let you know, and I'll give you if you wanna change it, let me know, and that'll be that. I wanted to ask the board on the fog, we want to get letters out, we're doing that now as per last, but we're thinking instead of doing 2 sets of letters, in other words, if we don't know the date in September, say in September, then we got to do another whole mailing. So we're just asking if we could pick a date in September, right now, and do it with the original mailing, just say, this is the orders we're planning on having a meeting September 12th, or whatever it may be, and then that goes out with the letter. Now that can always be changed, but at least we set something, and then leave it at that. Just to do 1 mailing opposed to 2 mailings.
It'd be less
That's-
expensive us to do the two.
That's what we're
mailings.
thinking,
Right.
the expense of it.
Right.
And we're also, because we have a mass list, we're also gonna send with ours, the ones that are on septic also, even though it's not our issue, but we're gonna educate anyway, so we feel that they should have the right to come there. It'll help the Board of Health too to educate his users, so they can keep their system running, so they don't get back up into the restaurant, whatever. So we're just gonna do a mass mailing of everybody, if the board's okay with that.
We're looking for a meeting for this, not on a Thursday or on any other day.
And I would say any day but Thursday, whatever
Okay,
you,
fine.
whatever your
How about the
pleasure is.
14th?
Okay, 14th?
That's a week
It's a
after
Monday.
Labor Day.
That is Rosh Hashanah.
Oh,
Albany Church.
Mm-hmm.
15, no,
15th is a Tuesday, we can do the 21st. Is that too
21st.
late?
No?
No, it's what it
What's the
is.
21st.
It's a Monday. It's a Monday
Monday is the 21st, okay.
Okay.
of September.
So I'll give that date to Rebecca, and then she can just do the mass mailing. And,
Guy, will Bourne also be at that? Because they'll have to know what our grease.
Well, his board has a grease policy. I've asked them to send me theirs, and yes, because I want to give them ours, because by the IMA, they're to follow our policies. So, yeah, and they already have one in place. What they do is he goes out every quarter to the restaurants himself, picks the cover up and says, okay, I want that pumped. He orders the truck and he pumps it. So he does it himself. Now, I'm thinking they have less restaurants in Buzzards Bay on Sewer than we have. He just runs the strip, he's done. We have restaurants all over the place, you know, I mean, you look in the plaza up at, in West Wareham, Main Street, the 6 and 28 strip,
Oh, yeah,
Onset.
we do have a lot of.
They're everywhere. I think we have 100 and something that we have into the sewer. I believe it's 103 or whatever. We have those addresses that are into the sewer. So we are concerned with those, but the other ones that are on septic, we'll just invite them also to educate them because it benefits the whole
Everybody.
town. So I think we'll just do it that way.
Excuse me, meeting here,
You were
or
gonna look
I've got
into,
some numbers on Rosebrook in the conference room, and I'm thinking it would be a non-formal setting, if you will. It holds up to 400 people, and I believe we're gonna have 100, 200 people. If you have it here, I
Get 'em
don't
in
know if we have the space, the capacity. So I'm thinking of that type of setting, and they'll just open the room up, put all the chairs down, we can sit and do this, present it, and there'll be question and answers, whatnot. So I just think that would be a better venue than having it here.
yeah,
So
we
that's what we're
can't.
working on.
Do you really think there's gonna be a couple hundred people?
Well, that's the potential, because I'm thinking, maybe some restaurants say, I don't want to come. I can't answer, but I've got to
Yeah.
prepare for the potential. You see, I mean, I could say, oh, maybe 20% will show up, or 40%. I really don't know. I truly don't know. Some people might say, well, I don't care, just fill them in, I don't care. Others may say, wait a minute, I want to talk about this. I really don't know, but I think I need to prepare for the worst. If everybody comes and I'm not prepared for it, then I have a problem on my hand. I got to scramble. You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts. I don't know if you think something,
Well,
it doesn't matter to me.
In the notification, can we ask them if they could respond if they're interested?
Yeah, for an RSVP
And
and
it'd give
then,
you
You think we can do
a
that?
better idea, that they still, some may not come. but-
You know, it would be interesting to see how much the Elks, the Rosebrook charges.
Yeah, they gave us an idea. It's something like $300 for 400 people, for 4 hours or 5 hours, whatever it was. So I thought that was reasonable,
this isn't
because
a
now
wedding.
we have, I'm sorry?
This isn't a wedding.
Well, I
That's
don't
cheap,
know
Jimmy.
yet. I want to have all our options open.
But this is not any coffee or anything, this is just
No, this
the
is just a
room.
room. I'm not providing, it's just a room. And so we have the place, and it seats 400, so it'll more than do what we're looking to do. And I just think for $300 to have a place to go that the potential is, I just think it's,
If you can get it for $300, that's great, but
Yep.
if not, you could always look into the Elks. too.
absolutely,
6
absolutely.
o'clock,
The Elks are, you know,
Okay,
What time?
that's fine.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock,
6 o'clock at night, you wanna have it?
Well, I don't.
When do you think is
wanna have it
best?
during the
It doesn't
day.
matter to me. What do you think is best?
just during the day.
You can't make it.
I'm just looking at attendance from y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could do it.
we can all make it,
We
it's just
can
the
look at-
restaurants, I'm just wondering if
Well,
the
we look
restaurants.
Is it-
look at doing it like 2 o'clock, because that's after lunch for everybody and well before dinner, so. If that's,
It's gonna
if
be
that's,
How
high
many
day-
restaurants in town are closed on Mondays?
I don't know. I really don't. That's a good question. I don't know.
Because that is,
Not in the summertime, I don't think there's
what,
any.
you're talking about
This is
September.
September, I don't know. I really
you're gonna have,
don't.
you're not gonna have many that are closed anymore. There's a few, but not
Okay,
many.
just
Yeah.
curious, because I know
Not
some
many.
places do close on
Hmm.
Mondays.
Now that I think about it, you're right.
No. I
You
don't think
have
there's many
at all.
places
I mean, you
closed
got,
on
uh,
Mondays either.
Afford to.
Cafe Solio, but that's only open
Yeah.
part-time anyhow.
Yeah.
Other than that,
So they,
Stonebridge, they're open on Mondays?
yep.
But it sounds Monday may be the lightest of all their days,
Yeah,
I
well,
would
I think.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mondays would be a good day for them to meet. I mean, I can obviously skip the meeting, from that
I mean, we
standpoint. If
could
you want
do-
to have it at 2 o'clock, it's fine.
Do it like 2:30, that puts them right in between meal times
Mm-hmm.
for them, but I don't know how it will work out for y'all. Or who can make it or who can't.
Well, I know I couldn't make that.
Right,
but-
you
but
can't
to-
make
Thursday, yeah.
Do you think it makes a difference, afternoon or evening? 6 o'clock?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then,
Absolutely,
and you
for
think
sure.
afternoon
The
would be
dinner
better?
hour is gonna be
I think it would be
impossible
better
for
for
Possible.
anybody to
them.
get
They're
in.
just not gonna show at the dinner hour.
You know,
No.
between
Okay, so then
4 and
let's-
7, there's just no way
let's
they're
go
gonna
with the-
go.
And
for
particularly,
2:30?
particularly for what we're trying to do.
Exactly, yeah, okay,
You
so
know,
we're
it
gonna go
doesn't-
with
2:30,
2:30.
I think, yeah.
And if they tape it, I'll get you the disc.
And I'll ask Mr. White to tape it, because we should
Yes.
have it taped, that should be done for, and it could also be for other people that don't make it or whatever, or
Yeah.
for us posterity, whatever, okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay, and then you have the, June 4th, you have the presentation for the coastal zone management. If there's any questions or anything you need, let me know, I'll get it to you before the actual presentation. But you were given the packet of what, generally speaking, what it is.
The coastal zone,
Management,
CZM.
it's taken the entire, what they're doing is they're looking at all our pump stations on the water,
okay,
and they're going to analyze the tides and the whole 9 yards, and
yeah,
it's resiliency. It was something that we got a grant for it, but it was something that the government and the state is looking at because of the impact of storms to these coastal communities that have pump stations. It can be quite severe. We have some that are very vulnerable.
mhm.
So we're gonna put the report together, and then we're gonna use that as a tool to get grant money to actually combat or to repair the vulnerabilities of the pump stations. So they're gonna present it to you June 4th, but if there's any other thing you need, let us know. I'll see that you get it.
Do you think we should do the pump station tour on the 30th, on a Saturday, at 9:30, since our May 16th one was canceled? We're only gonna check out a couple, but what does the board think about that?
I think the best ones to check, well, coastal zone management has been working with you to determine which ones, if we had an event, would be the most at
Vulnerable.
risk.
That's right.
So I'm
That's
almost wondering then, between what we have for our capital improvement plan and the list that we have off the capital improvement plan, if we wait and actually listen to what coastal zone management has instead, then we compile it, then we will have the worst, not the
worst
worst,
ones
Yeah,
but
and we can
No,
go
we can
there.
look
the
at
highest priority list that we would need to look at.
That's-
So
that's-
instead of doing
makes
it
sense.
on the 30th, is wait until their presentation.
Okay.
I don't recall having the coastal zone stuff though, Guy. I don't know what you gave us for it, so. is that
Yeah, there
what-
was given it was a copy of the report, or basically the actual grant and what it entails for us to do.
That may
That-
be in here.
It may be, looking
I
at.
believe it's in here, the coastal
looking at
zone
coastal-
management.
I
I
believe
think it's
we-
in our
And if
folder.
you don't, let me know. But I thought we gave you, it talked about the resiliency program and the actual, what we're trying to accomplish. What I have that I'm gonna try to compile and get colored, I've got a picture of every pump station and the vulnerability of the elevations of the seawater, the 15 feet, 16 foot, 17 feet. And I'm gonna make, it's a pretty good stack. I'll have those duplicated in color for you, and I'll get you that, so you can actually see the pump station and follow
It's
along.
not.
You don't have one?
I don't see it.
Yeah, I
I
don't see it
really
either,
thought we
Guy.
gave it,
Wait a minute.
No,
no,
I
it
don't,
may have been in one of the packets that was the first meeting, maybe?
no, I have them all in, date order.
No,
And,
yeah,
no.
okay.
I
I'm
know we
sorry.
talked about it. You gave us the description, are you talking about the description of the, how an MLE plant works and what you gave us the plant information?
No, it was an actual,
You gave
it's
us
a
a draft
copy.
of the SOAR, billing policy?
Mhm. It was the actual CMZ grant. And what it was-
No,
I
I
haven't
don't,
seen that.
no,
I don't have
so,
No.
I don't
right,
either.
cause I would've already kinda taken a look at it. This is the first packet that you gave us,
I'm not saying it's here, I just wanted to see.
and I didn't see it,
Tab in it or something.
I didn't see
was
a
just
tab on it
really-
either. This is the paperwork from the first one.
I haven't seen it.
This is the paperwork.
Oh, I
that
haven't read everything, but boy, I've been doing a lot of reading.
Right, gave us the billing policy,
Okay.
it's not this, is it? This,
What she gave you,
is it this? This,
this is the survey, I'm sorry, she gave you the survey. If you look at it, it says Town of Wareham, Mass. Sewer Pump Station Elevation Survey for the Coastal Zone
Okay,
Resiliency Grant
okay.
Program.
Where is it, what section is
It's
that?
under-
She put it under CIP.
capital improvement plans,
It's S and
Oh,
something.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
that's why I didn't,
Okay, so, and this is what we're doing, and so they took the elevations And you can see
Okay.
it, the other pump stations, and you can see the elevations, and it's not in color, so it's difficult to read, so I didn't see the color.
Oh, I see.
But it tells you what they're doing,
Yeah,
and
oh, I saw it.
where they are.
Yeah, I don't think we need it in really in color.
Okay, that's,
I don't think we need to waste the money on
No.
printing it in color, okay.
No.
it's just that the color gives you the color code of the green, the red,
So
the blue.
it's called the Town of Wareham Sewer Pump Elevation Survey.
Yes, which is
Okay.
part of the coastal zone management, and that's what it's all about. Basically, where they are in relationship to, and then they're gonna decide the 1 foot
Looks like
storm
this.
surge, 2 foot storm surge,
Oh.
3 foot storm surge, and how that
It's
impacts
behind
us.
GHD.
So you'll be able to see that. In color, it's very,
It's
very
under the blue
distinct.
tab, I believe.
And that's all I'm saying. And I can maybe, I have one copy, maybe I'll circulate the one copy I have.
It's the
'Cause it
orange
really
tab
makes
that
it
says
strong.
CIP.
when
So
you
this
see
is
it.
not the actual copy of the grant.
Grant, no, it isn't. I thought, I gave her the grant, so I'll get you a copy of the grant, so you can understand what the grant is, what our responsibilities are, what the grant is. So she put just the maps, not the grant, so.
Got it, that's good.
So I'll give you the actual copy of the grant, so I'll make a note.
Well, this is what it looks like, guys, in your book.
Thank you for clarifying.
It's right after the GHD
I did.
that we had, which was the
I see
capital improvement
I
plan.
see CPPS
That's it,
plans.
right under
Blue.
that
So I
blue.
have my blue.
So it's halfway backwards.
So these are
from that.
surveys they've already done, this is the information,
The
this is the
back
data they've
pages.
already
Oh, like
collected.
this?
That's it.
Yeah.
Mine
This
happens
is,
to
this
be in
this is
color,
what they're
but
gonna
yours
present to
isn't.
us on.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So
And they're
it's
gonna
under
refine
that
it. Now they're gonna,
blue
now they're going
tab,
back and
Jimmy.
forth, because now what we need to see is in those elevations, is there a generator in that elevation?
First thing is the
Is there a door
GHD, and
cylinder
right
in
after
that
that
generation? Is there a
is
window,
the,
whatever it is? And so we're gonna look at the foundation of the building,
It's about
and then
halfway
all
down.
the electrical in the building. So let's say that that surge is gonna be here, and down here I have control panels and I have generators. We have an issue.
Right,
So we have to figure out how to make this building watertight or raise everything
raise
up.
everything up.
So that's what the whole concept is what's the impact if we get a regular storm, a 1 foot surge, a 3 foot surge, and a 5 foot surge? And these are kind of, 100 year, whatever, but they're kind of realities of what the EPA is telling us, that this is the potential. And so how are you gonna handle this potential? What's your resiliency? How are you gonna, and so that's what the whole study is.
And within the pump stations too, though, like I said, these are the ones that we also have on the capital improvement plan that says this one's
Absolutely.
in need of repair, whatever else.
Absolutely.
So in my understanding, I just wanna remember in my head, is in year one, this is the study year, and we have the potential when we look at this of applying for the money in order to rectify whatever it is the recommendations are to correct those, right?
It's absolutely the grant money. And far as the study for the first year, we're looking at some interns at Mass Maritime to do the actual, the
Yeah.
facility management,
Right.
to actually do the study for us of what the condition of our pump stations are. And because they have, they have these co-op programs, and they're paid co-op
Yeah.
programs, but they're a
Right.
lot less than, because that's how we did our GIS mapping, all
Right.
through, we
That's
paid
right.
for it, but it was like probably 1/3 or 1/4 the cost of what we had, so it's really,
Yeah.
and they have the support of all their staff, and so it's really a good situation for us to get involved in. So we think that's the way to proceed, and then we can have it all analyzed by the engineer, but save them a lot of time. And of course, save us a lot of money and get the same bang for the buck, get a better bang for the buck. So again, if there's any questions or anything you may need, let me know, so when we have that presentation, I can have it to you, so you can be more informed
Right.
when we do the actual presentation. And that's all I have for you tonight. If you have anything for me.
I had some, I just wanted to give you a little rundown of what the meeting went on Monday.
Well,
Excellent.
yeah, we have, in our next order of business, is unfinished business. So, we went Monday to
Yep.
find out about that, you and Jim.
Yeah,
So how did that go?
it went very well. I was pleasantly surprised. We met with Claire Conley, Jamie Conlon, John Ray, and who was the big dog? Was it John Ray?
John Ray was the, yes,
He's
the
a
big
big
dog
cat.
from the.
And they were very receptive about the Mass Maritime output and about, letting us use the tracks if the tracks were going to be wide enough. They told us that most of the tracks were 66
The 82.
to 82, right? And it's 33, they have what they own is 33 feet from the center of the track. Isn't that what they said?
Yes, both ways, yes.
Yeah, both
Either
ways,
the
yeah,
66,
30, yeah,
33,
exactly.
or the 82. or whatever.
And 24 to, and we said below the frost line, which was 4 feet,
Yes, ma'am, it's absolutely.
24 to 18 inches wide. We're talking about the piping. the only thing that everybody was concerned about the Cohasset Narrows Bridge, and how they were gonna attach the piping to that. And they were gonna look at a bunch of different options. The people that were there were very knowledgeable of Wareham, and Wareham's wetlands, and Wareham's everything. So they were going to look at that, and the thing that they did say is they wanted us to accelerate our program, because they're doing a lot of work, and you know, they're gonna be doing a lot of signal work down on the south side of the track. No, we have to put we can go all the way down until we hit the south side of the track.
At Main Ave.
We have to after Main Ave, we have to go to the south side of the
Yes,
track.
yes,
To put the
absolutely.
pipe, yeah, exactly. After Main Street, yep, that's
Yes.
exactly what I have, write my
Excellent.
notes.
Their concern on the bridge is because of the height underneath.
Yeah.
The boat is getting through, so
that's
Yeah.
that was the concern there, but I'm sure that can get worked out. That's just a,
And they're gonna reconstruct it.
They are,
They're
they're
gonna
doing a
reconstruct
lot
the
of work
bridge.
on
They're
that
gonna
bridge,
reconstruct
yeah.
the bridge, add some tracks and so.
they're, from my standpoint, that's probably the first meeting that I have been at with government people that came in with a positive attitude and left with a positive attitude. They didn't start off with, no, you can't. So that told me that we were on the right track, number one. Number two, they like the idea of the whole thing. They're supportive of it because of the regionalization possibilities.
Exactly, they very much
Because
encouraging that.
that would be a big plus,
Mm-hmm.
and said that we'll probably have some grant monies potentially available on a regionalization basis, so.
And then, didn't he say either Jacobs or HDR will be in contact, will be the contact person, will be in contact with you?
They would be in
Jacob's
contact
HDR.
with Joe Federico from Bader.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
Beta would contact
Bader.
us, so there'd be
Yeah.
one contact to get, because they're gonna give us all the most recent, if you will, diagrams or
Exactly.
plans of the actual track, the easements and where everything
They're
is.
giving us everything.
So they'll send it to Beta, Beta will give it to us, so we're gonna get everything that they have, so we can look at it, and we can make some decisions and make sure, because they said, absolutely do it. But now it's our responsibility to fit it in. Here's your
Yeah.
parameters, fit it in. But they just 100% behind us, and I was really, like yourself and yours,
Yeah.
I was really satisfied and impressed, because it was. Usually when you get to these meetings, you get, well, no, they embraced us. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they
All
went
the way.
bent over backwards for us. I was really, really pleasantly pleased and
And they want us
impressed.
to move, they want us to accelerate our program. They want us
Absolutely.
to, that's how much, I guess what we really need to do is see where on that track we can put,
Right.
where we can put
We can
that
go.
pipe.
And they said specific to the bridge, 'cause they're doing that within a year. So if we could at
Exactly.
least plumb the bridge,
Plans, yeah.
Yep,
Right.
get that
that
all
would be
done.
the least of
When
what we
they
should
did,
do.
right.
Yeah, because they could do it one time. That's what they were recommending to us.
See?
So now, those were the railroad people as well as the state?
It was the state's
Yes.
head of the
The
railroad.
state, the head of the railroad
That's interesting.
for the state.
The railroad is cooperative, that's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I
Usually you don't
was
touch anything.
blown away.
I
with
know,
that
isn't
they
it the
were-
truth of the
Well,
railroad?
without
They were
an
very,
engineer.
very
Yeah,
yeah. One of
cooperative,
their
very
engineers.
helpful, couldn't have been better.
They were
Now,
great
if
to
we're
our
talking
engineers.
about regionalization, can we get help from Plymouth and Bourne? I know
Yes,
Bourne's. in-
we've already talked to Bourne, we've already talked to Plymouth, and they're all on
Some
board.
volunteers, actually.
Marion mentioned this little small pot of Marion that they would like to sewer. And I think regionalization is a great idea. And so let's look at it from Wareham's perspective and the whole region. First of all, Wareham, we have a capacity issue at our treatment plant, we know that.
Right.
And so we're doing I&I and different things to have in the interim. If everybody pulled out, for Wareham itself, we would have considerable capacity. So it behooves us to do it anyways. If everybody around us, and that's not going to happen because everybody around us wants it just as much as we do. But in the event, if somebody says, you know what, we change our mind, for us as a town to continue to move forward, we need to think about more flow. because the Agawam River is dead. There's no more flow to the Agawam River. So it behooves us to move forward anyways. But the beauty is that we have the Buzzards Bay Coalition, we have the town of Bourne, we have the town of Plymouth. We've met with them. They're all really excited and interested. We talked to one of our state reps. The state rep from Plymouth is on board. So everybody thinks that for the whole region, it's a win-win-win. And so I don't see anybody not wanting to get involved.
And the thing that impressed me about our engineers is Paul, was he?
Paul Tarazzi.
Paul was directly in charge of cleaning Boston Harbor.
Oh, that
We
was
went from the
nice.
beginning to the, and the Charles River, because we were talking about those projects in between golf. But, he so he really, and he's got, he was the number one guy there, DEP for a long time.
So you have hired him as an engineer, or is he?
Beta Engineering is doing
Is him.
doing the work,
Okay.
yes.
He's our contact person there.
Yes. And he's our contact, because talking to that level of government, we need someone that can get us in the doors
Oh.
that we couldn't get into. And that was exciting. He got us in the door that
Oh, yeah.
we never would have got
I mean, it
into.
was, I can't really explain just how well that went and how
I was
good I
shocked.
felt about the whole conversation, the way the flow of it, the input we got from them,
The guy from,
the support we got from them.
the guy from construction there, the kid
Yeah.
there,
Mm.
he knew our
I mean, they knew
area,
what
and
that-
he was, yeah.
They all knew what they were talking about, and
We
they were
gotta
all
look
right
at
on
this,
board
and we'll
with it.
have to look at that down, there's a lot of wetland down there, and they were talking about the minor forest there. So they know the area, they know
Yeah,
it, they
the
know it
area
well.
very well.
Yeah,
They were very well prepared for us.
absolutely.
Well, plus the railroad had done all of the crossing stuff all over again too, so they must have just done a recent study to be able to have, because in order to let the train down from Boston, they did all that work, all over again, they just did.
Yeah, well, they did mention that they have new plans and new updates, and that they were gonna provide
And
all
they-
of
and
that
they're gonna-
information to us.
Good.
Yeah, we'll share whatever we have with you, they said.
And the Cape Cod Rail President was there, and he got their permission to share anything he has with them. to
Exactly,
us.
Great.
yep, he
So-
was there, yep, you're absolutely right,
So we
yeah.
got that too, so that was pretty
Sure.
exciting, so.
Yeah.
It was a terrific meeting. It was a day well spent. Usually I don't say that when I go to Boston, but this was a day well
It
spent.
was.
Yeah. So,
We thank you guys for all your travels.
Yes, yeah. So now you're just gonna follow up with Beta and?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll share, when I get the plans, I'll share them with you because they're really excited to see it. I mean, it's just really, yeah.
mm. Okay.
Very good. Okay, so as far as new business goes, I do just want to, couple of reminders here. We are live, and you can reach us or see us on Comcast, on Channel 95, and on Verizon on Channel 29 at 6:30 every Thursday evening. And they also are going to replay this on Saturday, I believe it's 6, and again on Sunday, Saturday at 11 a.m., I'm sorry, and Monday at 7 p.m. So they will be replaying us on WCTV. If you want a channel schedule or anything, it's www.warehamtv.org. Mrs. Morrison had asked me to pass that along. And again, I will pass along the fact that we do have a sewer commissioner's email address, which is sewercommissioners@wareham.mass.us. If anybody wants to send anything into the board, they can send it through that. And they can watch us on WCTV live. And the only other reminder I have, and this was from Rebecca, was that she will be sending out the abatement applications on 5/26. She'll email them to us. And if there's anything anybody wants for agenda items, she needs them for the 28th, which is our next meeting.
Mhm.
She will need them by Tuesday. But I think it'll be the regular agenda, although I am going to take, I think, citizens' participation off that evening because we will have a full vote with the abatements and the tie and bond draft. So that's about it for me and for all of us. So the next meeting date and time is the 28th. We will have the 3 abatements plus the tie-in bond draft unless there is any conflict. So I'll see you all at 6:30. And if there's no other business and there's no objection, we can adjourn.
Make a motion to
Make a-
adjourn?
So, second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.